All right. We'll start with the four great Bodhisattva vows. Sentient beings are numberless. We vow to help them all. Delusions are countless. We vow to see through them all. Opportunities to awaken are infinite. We vow to embrace them all. The Buddha way is endless. We vow to embody it. All right, our standard 15-minute period of seated meditation. We'll chant the Gatha on opening the sutras. This Dharma, incomparably profound and minutely subtle, is rarely encountered, even in hundreds of thousands of millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, hold and maintain it. May we completely realize the true mind of all Buddhas. Okay, relax, get comfortable. For this evening, the Dharma will be brought to us by Great Bodhisattva Ron Kisen Stevenson.
Good evening. Tonight, I would like to talk about the topic of the other. Just before the year 2000, in the late 1900s, the last century, I guess, the Facebook had not yet been invented, and the forum for Buddhist, shall we say, the Buddhist forum online was called Usenet. It was also called news groups, and they had such names as Alt Buddhism Tibetan, Alt Buddhism Zen, Alt Buddha Short Fat Guy, and so forth. I'm still in contact with a lot of the people who were on in those days, but most of them have moved on to terrorize people in Facebook. It was there that I learned a lot about the dynamics of online discussion. Having practiced Zen in Korea, I'd never encountered anything like that. But in these forums, I quickly learned words like troll and flame war, so forth. And one of the things that is of interest is that in these Buddhist forums, it's quite common to see people faulting one another for not being good Buddhists, not observing right speech, right behavior, and so forth. You've seen it before where there's a message posted announcing someone's departure from the group with a hit after the bell. It's a hit and run move. And then you'll see ensuing comments like, "This isn't an airport. You don't need to announce your departure," and so forth. And to be sure, the Buddhist ethical teachings are fundamentally important, such as right speech. And these are prominent in teachings such as the precepts, the Eightfold Right Practices, the Three Poisons, the Immeasurables, Ahimsa. But what's often problematic about ethics, I find, is that they always seem to apply to the other. It's that other guy who's always caused us grief, whom we decry as not following the precepts, not using right speech, not equanimous. It's always the other guy. But wait a minute, who is this other guy? And why is it so important to criticize him? Well, the first thought that came to mind was Matthew in the Bible. Christianity, Matthew 7:3-5 says, I'll quote, "You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you'll see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye." So we might assume that Buddhism would have a similar admonition. Alaga Dhamma Sutra, the snakes of simile, provides one. And the Buddha is quoted as saying, "Suppose, monks, that a man sees a large snake and with a forked stick holds it firmly down. Then he catches it firmly by the neck. And even though the snake would entwine with its body that man's arm, he would not suffer death or pain. And why not? Because of his right grasp of the snake. Similarly, O monks, there are some noble sons who study the teaching, and having learned it, they examine wisely the purpose of those teachings. To those who wisely examine the purpose, these teachings will yield insight. They do not study the teaching for the sake of criticizing nor for refuting others in disputation. They experience the purpose for which they study the teaching, and to them, these teachings being rightly grasped will bring welfare and happiness for a long time. And why? Because of the right grasp of the teachings. Therefore, O monks, if you too are reviled, abused, scolded, and insulted by others, you should on that account not entertain annoyance, nor rejection, nor displeasure in your hearts. And if others respect, revere, honor, or venerate you, on that account you should not entertain delight, nor joy, nor elation in your hearts. So a prominent feature of our society is that there's a continual call for righteous indignation from one quarter or another. When it comes to social media or the news, how dominant are the voices asking us to join in condemnation of some celebrity, leader, influencer, nation state, government, nationality, power dynamic, and so on? If we could all agree on a villain to accuse, heap abuse on, wish violence upon, or condemn, or blame for everything under the sun, absolving ourselves, then we ourselves have established a contrast by which we can feel more virtuous ourselves, compassionate, and more right than others. But are we really? And not only that, we can then join in the condemnation of others who uphold the views we don't like. We can feel even better about ourselves then. And all that was accomplished without lifting a finger to actually be helpful, caring, equanimous, or actually taking any personal responsibility for our actions. It's easy to get suckered into righteous indignation and turn that into resentment and wrong speech and wrong behavior. A famous line in Bob Dylan's song, My Back Pages, talks about how we get drawn into enmity with those we oppose. In a soldier's stance, he wrote, I aimed my hand at the Mongol dogs who teach, fearing not that I'd become my enemy in the instant that I preach. So the point for us as Buddhists, as I see it, is how we deal with the notion of the other. This notion that characterizes the conflicts we encounter. The media that co-opts us into cheering for war or policies that penalize and punish instead of nurture and de-escalate. Of course, our first recourse in dealing with conflict is right understanding and right speech. The Vaka Sutra provides, or the Vaka Sutta rather, provides the following guidance, which you're probably familiar with. It goes like this. Monks, a statement endowed with 5 factors is well spoken, blameless, and unfaulted by knowledgeable people. Which 5? 1, it is spoken at the right time. It's spoken in truth. 3, it's spoken affectionately. 4, spoken beneficially. And spoken with a mind of goodwill. So what all of these 5 criteria depend upon, what they all have in common is what? An ability to see the perspective of the other. None of these can be done without consideration of the other's perspective and welfare. That doesn't mean that we necessarily accept the perspective as completely true, correct, or even palatable. But we do need to address the issue from the other's perspective if we hope to have any dialogue. Courses on negotiation put this forth as a fundamental premise. So why can't we use that premise in statesmanship, in our lives, in our practice? If we want to live and let live, we are just going to have to find better ways to disagree without being disagreeable. And I'll credit Reverend Jesse Jackson for that phrase. And that means stepping back from our own narratives and the dominant narratives we hear in our society. Things are seldom black and white. When there are actually two or more individuals or groups who are just really acting from their own self-interest. And the self-interest of one need not be incompatible or unreconcilable with the self-interest of the other. Recognizing the other's self-interest is the most effective place to start. Now, our own interests may be well-intended, but they often blind us to the humanity of the other. We can more effectively hear each other's concerns before things escalate and hammer out a win-win common ground solution rather than devolve into a zero-sum blame game and worse. And so I'll conclude with some famous and probably familiar words from the first chapter of Dhammapada. He abused me. He struck me. He overpowered me. He robbed me. Those who harbor such thoughts do not still their hatred. Those who do not harbor such thoughts still their hatred. Hatred is never appeased by hatred in this world. By non-hatred alone is hatred appeased. This is a law eternal. There are those who do not realize that one day we all must die. But those who do realize that we all must die, settle their quarrels. So how do we promote greater understanding among parties who disagree? Deep listening and a response that is timely, true, affectionate, beneficial, and spoken with a mind of goodwill. If there is misinformation, we respectfully address it. If there is clamor for evil, we counter it with wisdom and compassion, and not with mutual enmity.
Thank you, Ron. My initial inclination is to say back to you, oh yeah, but I'll refrain from doing so because that wouldn't be beneficial. Back to another 15 minutes of seated meditation. Chant the Heart Sutra. Mahaprajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply the Prajna Paramita, perceives that all five skandhas are empty and is saved from all suffering and distress. Shariputra, form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. That which is form is emptiness. That which is emptiness, form. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness. Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They do not appear or disappear, are not tainted or pure, do not increase or decrease. Therefore in emptiness, no form, no feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no color, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realm of eyes, and so forth, until no realm of mind consciousness, no ignorance, and also no extinction of it, and so forth, until no old age and death, and also no extinction of them, no suffering, no origination, no stopping, no path, no cognition, also no attainment, with nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva depends on Prajna Paramita, and the mind is no hindrance. Without any hindrance, no fears exist. Far apart from every perverted view, one dwells in nirvana. In the three worlds, all Buddhas depend on Prajna Paramita and attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore know that Prajna Paramita is the great transcendent mantra, is the great bright mantra, is the utmost mantra, is the supreme mantra, which is able to relieve all suffering and is true, not false. So proclaim the Prajna Paramita mantra. Proclaim the mantra which says Gate Gate Para Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha Gate Gate Para Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha Gate Gate Para Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha. This is the time where every week we make personal dedications of merit. And again, I ask that in addition to everyone that's named, that we also dedicate merit to each other, all sentient beings, but our family here in the Sangha, especially because a lot of us are going through some difficult times right now. All sentient beings are one seamless body and pass quickly from birth to death. We remember those who cared for us and are gone. those who are ill, those who are at war, those who are hungry, and those who are in pain. May they heal and have peace. We especially dedicate our service to Venerable Wanji Dharma, Mike Jinji Wood, Dominda Pereira, Barry, the Bryant Guy family, Aunt Rose. Does anyone have anyone they would like to add right now?
Maureen.
Maureen?
Joanne and Bailey Sheridan.
Heather.
All sentient beings in the 10 directions, subject to greed, hatred, and delusions of themselves and others. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, Maha Prajna Paramita. Life and death are of supreme importance. Time passes swiftly by and opportunities to awaken are easily lost. Strive to realize your true nature. Do not squander your time by night or day. And thank you for joining us, everybody.